Welcome to the first video of Everybody 3D Prints. My name is Ray Shane, and today I have here a Flsun or Flsun QQ Delta printer. I'm going to do an unboxing video, and then we're going to follow up with an assembly video and a full review. So the QQ Delta is the successor to Flsun's Big Cricket. It's a mostly assembled solid metal printer with automatic leveling, heated bed. It's got a touch screen, it's got Wi-Fi, and a phone app on your phone. So it's a pretty sophisticated printer, or intended to be anyway. So let's unbox it and see what we got. I'm actually astonished at how small, for a Delta printer, they get this box, because although the CR10 is almost fully assembled in its flat pack, that's a gantry system, which by its nature is a flat printer. I mean, you take the gantry off and lay it down and you're pretty flat, but by its nature, a Delta tends to be very bulky. So I'm interested to see how they packed it. Well, to start with, it's in the typical styrofoam layering. Nice. Everything seems to be sectioned and put together well. Nothing seems to be in a position where it can get broken. So we're going to start off with 6 smooth rods. Followed by what looks to me to be a spool for the filament. We've got a power cord and a USB cord. A bag of tools. This has kind of become obligatory since the CR10 started doing it, since Creality started doing it. It's got side cutters, a little scraper, 1-inch spatula type paint scraper, a screwdriver, and 6 different sized Allen keys, all of which are a reasonable length and have the ball end at the other side, so they're not the typical low-priced Allen keys that you would normally find in these kits. And there's another bag with rubber gloves. Interesting. I guess that's because they are also giving you grease. I'm assuming for the smooth rods, for the carriages to slide up and down. There is a spare thermistor, wire ties, an SD reader, no card here, a couple of extra nozzles, at least I'm assuming they're extra. It's a partially assembled printer, and yeah, there's a nozzle. I'll show it to you in a minute. There's a nozzle on the effector, so 2 spare nozzles and 2 thumb screws. Oh, and here are a whole bunch more thumb screws. I guess this plastic bag opened in the packing, and it was one bag in another, so not terrible. Yeah, it's open. I'll just stuff these back in. And I'm assuming those thumb screws are what you're actually going to put this printer together with. Oh, something else in here. Huh. Now this is something that Creality started also, as far as I know. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a, what looks like a 4mm clog probe. Something that you would stick into the nozzle of the printer if you have a clog to try to dislodge it, kind of like those little drill bit things. It's a spring end, and it's a nice tool. I have one with my CR10, and they clear up minor clogs, not the really heavy ones. but nice to have. So that's what's in this bag. Now this isn't my first Delta. I had a Cricket for a while, basically to rehab and sell, but I played with that for a while. And I also had, or have, a console Delta Mini that I'm converting over to a smoothie board at the moment. So I have a little background, I forgot this. Little background with Deltas. I also have a CR10. I have an Flsun Standard i3, an Flsun Q. I'm building a dual nozzle printer of my own design, so I'm reasonably well equipped. And here's the manual. I'm assuming there's also somewhere in here an SD card, and there's manuals and links and stuff on the SD cards typically. This is a nice manual, heavy paper, shiny paper, full color photos, Chinese and English instructions by each photo. We'll see how good it is as far as a guide when I get to do the assembly. And then there's a certificate of approval. I guess this must be their packing slip or their quality control. And this is a product warranty card in Chinese and English. So, not a bad manual, considering most companies don't give you manuals anymore. And the last item on this tray are these three shields that form the corners of the printer. One of the problems with the big Cricket was it was very loud. The vibration set up just horrible noises. It was a good printer. It worked very well once you got it working, but there were a couple of little quirks to it that a lot of people didn't like. So this is very similar to that, but instead of being a shiny, hard acrylic, they seem to have powder coated it, and I suspect that's going to help substantially with the noise. So that's all that's in the top tray. Now, I don't know if you can see, but the tray is cut through, and it allows stuff from the lower tray to lift up into it. Yeah, I can do it this way. And this is where the effector was, and these areas are where the diagonal rods sat. So that's how they got it reasonably flat. Very intelligent design packaging. So here's the effector. Oh, it's let me get rid of this. The belts are already attached. Interesting. So let me take this whole thing out. It's all one piece. And we'll start with the effector. So here's the effector. It's upside down. Like that. And these are the electric cables. Nice. These are the electric cables for the effector. So you've got the hot end, and you've got a J-head style heatsink, and the Bowden tube coming into the connector on the top. And there's a nozzle in there, and a heater cartridge, and the thermistor are all already installed, and their wires are running through here, apparently, which is all sheathed in the style of the CR10, and it's even got the same type of heavy-duty metal connector as the CR10. Now, that's a big improvement over the big Cricket, because they had two sets of wires with two plastic connectors that were the same connector reversed. You couldn't get them wrong, but they weren't nearly as robust as this is. And on the effector, you have a cooling fan for the heatsink, and you've got two turbo fans for part cooling with vents that blow it down to the part and not at the nozzle. So that's really nice. Your rods seem to be fiberglass. The rods for the earlier model, the Cricket, were metal, and that was another problem. I don't know how flexible they were, but I was afraid they were going to flex. Carbon fiber, of course, doesn't flex. So even with rapid movement, you're not going to get distortions in your print. And then they have the carriages, the X, Y, and Z axis carriages already set up with the belt and the pulley for the belt. So this is going to screw into the top of the printer. Very nice. And then down at the bottom, on the side of the base, they have this wire, which connects to this wire, and that's what gives you your connection to all of the electronics in the effector, or the electrics in the effector. They also have a cable for the end stop sticking out, a little plastic snap cable. That's very clean. Now, here is the base. They have on the base a piece of release paper. The base itself looks to be 3mm aluminum. It is solidly mounted on the steel base, no springs. And I suspect when I pull off this release paper, I will find the conductive sheet, the conductive fabric sheet that Flsun used on the big Cricket for the bed leveling. Bed leveling on the Cricket was unique. It had an electric circuit, one end of which was the bed, the other end of which is the nozzle. And the probe, it was the tip of the nozzle itself, which is nice, because you can, you don't have to worry about any offset. It's exactly where you're probing is where the nozzle is, because it is a nozzle. So the advantage to that is you get minimal error. The disadvantage, of course, is you have to be able to touch a conductive surface, and if you were to put build tack or glass or anything like that on the surface, you couldn't do any auto leveling. That's problematic with a solidly mounted print bed. So I'm told that they've resolved that problem here somehow, and I'm interested to see how. But so far, this is the same setup with the conductive paper stuck to. I see the edge of the conductive paper here, stuck to the aluminum build plate. I'm not going to peel that off right now. I'm going to do that during the installation video. Anyway, on the three sides of the base, well, first on the bottom, you've got a cover plate that's perforated to airflow and has 3 rubber feet, and you've got a fan on one side. So the fan is facing outwards, so it's going to draw the hot air out, and cool air is going to be able to rise into these holes. And that's good, because that was another problem with the Cricket, was that the base tended to get extremely hot on long prints. And since all of your electronics and your power supply and your motors and everything are in the base, that was an issue. It could cause skipping of your motors. On this side of the base, you've got a USB port, and there's the SD card already mounted, already inserted. And I'm assuming there's a bunch of stuff on the SD card. I'll check that out. And here's something you don't see every day. You've got an AC socket, similar to what you have on a computer, and built into the socket is a fuse. So you've got a fused AC connection to your power supply. Now, if you've built other machines, you'd know that most power supplies on 3D printer kits are little cheap switching power supplies that you have to actually wire everything to. And a lot of people just take the wires and stick it under the screws and screw it down, not even putting terminals, print terminals on them. Very bad practice. Could easily break loose, cause a fire. Just not a good practice. But more importantly, it also required that you connect AC power by screwing in the AC cord to the terminal. There was no switch, and the AC power is dangerous. I mean, in America, you're talking about 110 volts, but in Europe and other places, you're talking about 220 volts. That could kill you. So to have eliminated that problem by putting this type of a connection in is a huge step up. Finally, on what I guess is the front of the base, there is a TFT touchscreen It looks like the 2.8. It could be the 3.2. I'm not going to measure at the moment. But there's a TFT touchscreen and an on-off switch. The on-off switch was missing from the big Cricket too, and that was a big problem with that machine. So far, I like what they've done. They've made a lot of improvements over the prior model. They took to heart all of their the users' complaints. It's got some weight to it. Okay, the next item in here is the top cover. And you've got your motor for the extruder and the Bowden tube connector. I'm not sure what this opening is. They have an opening to get to the extruder, I guess to see if it's turning. I never liked the placement of the extruder inside the cover, but I'm told that this machine has a filament loading routine that eliminates the need to actually loosen and tighten the extruder. So if that works even reasonably well, this wouldn't be too much of a problem. And now, to see this window in here that allows you to see if the extruder is turning and how much, and if it's backing up and all that, it's probably fine. And you've got a little piece of PTFE tubing sticking through, Teflon tubing where you feed in the filament. Now, one thing I did find, and I'm going to have to figure out where it goes, is a loose screw. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so in here there are sockets for the smooth rods that the carriages ride up and down on. And this screw is what will lock in that socket, and I guess it just worked itself loose and travels. It's not tightened in any way, so it's not surprising. So let me just replace that so it doesn't get lost. There we go. So now when I stick the rod in there to build the machine, in the process of building the machine, I'll have all the screws in place. They've started them all, and that's a good thing. And then finally, in this level, this PLA. They give you a full kilogram of PLA. This one happens to be white. I'm sure that, well, I shouldn't say that, but, you know, I assume the colors are random. Temperature 190 to 215 C. Typical Chinese no-name PLA. The PLA that generally comes with any of these machines is garbage, but hopefully that will be a reasonable quality, and we'll be able to get them in a full kilogram of PLA to set up the printer and test it is quite generous in my experience. So, okay, so that's the last item in this tray. And we are at the bottom of the box. And, surprise, surprise. So, what we have here is a build surface, similar to Build Tack. It's not branded in any way, other than with FLSun's logo. Hot surface, do not touch, caution, before touching, power off the heat bed. Oh, before touching, power off the heat bed and wait at least 10 minutes. The typical cautions, which is good. So what they must want you to do, because there's a very smooth sheet of release paper on the back of this. I suspect this can stick also, but what I think I'm going to do, what I suspect they want you to do, is peel the release paper off of the bed to expose the conductive sheet that's stuck to the print bed. Do the leveling, and then once the machine is leveled to that conductive sheet, stick this on with the release paper on it, so it'll stick lightly and it'll be removable if you need to remove it to relevel. And then I guess you do in the setup in the screen, there should be, and most Marlin versions today have, a Z-probe offset setting. So if I add whatever thickness this is to the offset, then I should be able to compensate for this and still have the benefit of the auto leveling. That's very clever. That's a good way to solve the problem they had, and hopefully it'll work. This is another sheet of the conductive paper with release paper on both sides. I recognize this from the Cricut. Now this one has a hole in it. It's damaged. It looks like there's a boot print on it too. So I guess this must have fallen down and nobody noticed it. But it doesn't matter because when I put this on, I have to trim it, and that looks like it's going to be either right at the edge or off the edge of the print bed, so it's not going to affect the usability of the sheet, so that's good. Okay, and that is the sum total of what's in the box. And there you have it, the new Flsun QQ Delta printer. Next time I'm going to put it all together and see how quickly and easily it is to put together. I have a feeling that's going to be a very short video because it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to put together. And then after the assembly video, we will do a review video which will encompass a number of prints and some playing with the settings, and we'll see how well it runs after assembly. Thank you very much and have a great day.